Hello and welcome. This video is going to be a book review of Soulsmith, the second book in the Cradle series by Wight. If you have not watched my review of Unsold, which is the first book in the Cradle series by Wight, I will link that up above and kindly request you go watch that first, and then you can, watch this one. Only because I don't want to spoil anything for you, and also to give you a little bit more of my thoughts about the series. I will state that pretty much as soon as I stopped listening to Unsold, I started listening to Soulsmith. Wight is definitely considered one of the greatest independently published authors of this century for a reason. The first book, Unsold, made me excited and super interested in the characters. Soulsmith has now made me addicted to the series. So it opens up with Yaren and Linden having escaped Sacred Valley. They are now in the desolate wilds and they are alone and they are trying to make their way through the desolate wilds. I mean, they have a bunch of supplies and a bunch of treasures that they stole from the school in the Sacred Valley, and they're slowly going through the desolate wilds, and it's a slow go because of the fact that Linden can't really help, but also they are being attacked daily by remnants and beasts and even peoples. They come across a group of sacred artists that attack them. They are able to win and get away, but Linden is introduced to a new type of sacred artist that he's never seen before, and a new type of Madra. It's a poison Madra that he's not really seen a whole lot of or experienced a whole lot of. And Yaren is a new gold, and you start learning more about the sacred arts in this book and how restricted Sacred Valley really is, because if you remember from the first book, Jade is pretty much the highest anybody can hope for in Sacred Valley, and if you are a gold in Sacred Valley, you are considered top tier. You could rule all of Sacred Valley as a gold. So the fact that he is now traveling with a gold, he beats himself up a little bit. He's like, how ignorant am I growing up here in Sacred Valley? I mean, Linden was already stunted before, being unsold, but how ignorant has he grown up if Yaren is talking about gold being nothing? And it's really cool to see the relationship between Yaren and Linden grow, or at least not to become, for Yaren to stop thinking that Linden's going to betray her at any moment. That's kind of nice. So they're making their way through the desolate wilds, and despite the fact that they brought a bunch of stuff with them from the school and their packs, they've run out of water. So as they're going through the desolate wilds, things start to get desperate, because just like in real life, in Wight's world, if a sacred artist or any person doesn't have water within 3 days, they will not be alive much longer, and that's kind of how it works in real life too. So they're at the end of the second day, and they see a ruin in the distance, and underneath, or at the bottom of this ruin, is a beautiful blue lake. So they start making a beeline towards the lake, where they discover a encampment of all these people at the base of the ruin next to the lake. And they discover that the sacred artists that had attacked them were actually part of one of the 5 faction alliances that were in this ruin, or investigating this ruin. They find out when they get to this encampment from the people that are there that the ruin is actually something recent, that it actually recently just came up out of the earth, and these 5 factions have banded together in this alliance in order to try to get the treasure inside. This ruin is soaking up all the vital aura in the area, so it's just like this beacon of vital aura, and because it is a beacon of vital aura, not only did it attract all the sacred artists in the desolate wilds to this ruin to try to get the treasure, but it's also attracting all of the beasts and the remnants as well, because the aura is so great from this ruin. And so what they're doing is that they are mining the ruin for the vital aura and turning it into what is considered scales, which Linden finds out is the currency in this world, or in the world outside of Sacred Valley. And scales are just condensed Madra. And so because there's all this vital aura in the air, these people are turning that vital aura into condensed Madra, which are the scales. So they're basically like mining for gold, which are scales, and also trying to get to the treasure room, unlock the treasure room at the top. And the 5 factions, you get introduced to 2 characters that are important to Linden and Yeren. Jai Long, which used to be the former heir to the Jai clan, but he ends up having something happen to where he took a gold sign. So if you remember from Unsold, in order to become a gold, you have to defeat and take in a remnant. And just like with Yeren in Unsold, she took in her master's remnant, which worked perfectly because, you know, she's a sword artist, and the Sword Sage couldn't have been a better remnant for her. Jai Long, due to circumstances, took in a remnant that was not necessarily best for him and his arts, and he was left with a horrible gold sign that keeps his face in bandages. And he has now been exiled to help the Sandviper clan, or to assist the Sandviper clan. You also end up meeting Fisher Geisha, and Fisher Geisha is the master soulsmith for the Fisher clan, which is again another one of the 5 faction alliances. And she takes in Linden in order to, well, she takes in Linden, and Linden, if you remember, comes from a family of soulsmiths. So what he wanted most in Sacred Valley when he was getting tested was to become a soulsmith like his mother. So now he has escaped Sacred Valley. His eyes have been opened that there's so much more of a sacred artist than he knew in Sacred Valley. And he's being taken in by who he thinks is a master soulsmith. And he's just elated. So he's actually learning how to do soulsmithing. Not really great in the beginning because, again, he's still not even copper yet when Fisher Geisha takes him in, but he starts picking up stuff while in her foundry. Some more interesting things happen, and then you are introduced to the character Athen Aurelius. And Athen Aurelius is so far my favorite character in the book. It's interesting to me that what Will Wight has done with Athen, and that the way his character acts, he would very much be in most books just the plucky sidekick, like, but he's not a plucky sidekick. He actually ends up taking in Linden and Yeren under his wing and becomes their master, kind of. He's taken over the education for them in the sacred arts. And to watch the 2 of them grow underneath Athen's interesting tutelage, it's just really great. I also think it's very funny that at this point, Will Wight has now introduced the 5 faction alliance, the 4 schools of Sacred Valley, the 3 clans of Sacred Valley, 2 main characters, Yeren and Linden, and Athen, and then Athen. So it's like 5 golden rings, 4 whatever. It's very much giving you Partridge in a Pear Tree, that song, that Christmas carol. I don't know what the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 are going to be, but I am just... every time Athen's introduced, I just think, and a partridge and a pear tree in my head. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why, but that's what I'm thinking of every time Athen shows up. And it just makes me laugh. The book's very good, like I said. I have already started listening to Black Flame, which is the 3rd book, so look out for that review pretty soon. I do highly recommend this series. Again, Treeborn does an amazing job bringing all the characters to life, doing different voices, his inflection. His reading is very good. Again, just like the 1st book, the only criticism I have is Yeren's accent. He does amazing with all the other voices and accents. It's just Yeren that he can't seem to stick with the entire time she's speaking. I don't know what's up with her, but the rest of them are great. But that's the only criticism. I'm very excited to continue this series. I'm very excited to see with Ethan where this is gonna go. Also, like, I know I briefly mentioned Jai Long, but now, like, in addition to Ethan's tutelage, now Lyndon has a rival in Jai Long. So, you know, if you've watched anime ever, you know that the main character always gets stronger when he's put up against a rival. So, and now Lyndon has a deadline to defeat his rival. So this is it's so good. I'm so excited. Again, I cannot recommend this enough. If you have an opportunity, both Unsold and, well, actually, Unsold, the first book, Unsold, the second book, which is this one, Soulsmith, and the third book, Black Flame, are all available for $15 on Amazon if you want the paperback. It is free if you have Kindle Unlimited, so you can read it on your Kindle. It is also available on Audible, so if you have an Audible subscription, you can possibly get it for free. And I do know that Will Wight recently put up a Kickstarter as well, and it has like a prolonged Kickstarter website where you can pre-order hardcovers if you'd like. I'm definitely someone who prefers the hardcovers, so that's that's probably going to be added to my library at some point. But he also is offering leather-bound books, and that's very tempting as a treat for myself. I've enjoyed it so much on Audible, I am considering spending a stupid amount of money to get the hardcovers, if that gives any indication as how much I'm enjoying the series. So look for a review of the third book soon, and I cannot recommend this series enough. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you for another review of Black Flame pretty soon.